You've got your team colors picked out, your drivers and staff sorted, and the machine shop has delivered your first chassis, gleaming and hopeful for the new year. Problem is, it's a piece of junk, so it's time for those engineers to earn their pay by improving the car to a point where it can actually compete on the grid. But where to start? Unless you started your career in the World Championships, you'll likely have at least one of your 6 components listed as a spec part. This means that all of the cars on the grid are equipped with this part, and it will have a static performance value for the entire season, saving you from needing to build any of that component at all. It also starts with 80% reliability, which leads me to my next point. Your car's part condition will degrade with use over the course of a race, which is reflected in its reliability score. Most parts will have a red section at low reliability, and operating in this range vastly increases the chance of a critical failure, forcing the car to retire from the race. Your first chassis is almost assuredly operating at roughly 45% reliability on all of its parts, so your first task will be to improve this score a bit across the board. At low scores, you'll likely be spending time in pit lane to fix failing components, at the hefty price of 20 plus seconds per part. This incentivizes you to upgrade your part reliability early and often, to a level where you can more easily manage to complete a race without an on-site repair job. This can be a tall order with a low-level HQ and a lack of staff who get the job done quickly, so don't be surprised if you are still completing reliability work until very late in the season, especially early in your team's life. So which parts are the most important to improve reliability on first? Personally, I prefer to operate my cars at high engine levels for the performance boost, which is particularly taxing on the engine and gearbox. However, if you are planning on replacing these parts soon, it might be better to spend your early downtime improving the reliability of parts you plan to be using for a while instead. Before we just start building parts though, you'll want to do some scouting of upcoming races. Each race will list 3 parts that are important to the track layout, describing them as either crucial or useful, with crucial being the more potent. Cars with strong parts in these fields will find their performance on race day better than average, so you'll likely want to select a part or two to target specifically for the upcoming races. It can take weeks to fabricate parts, so by planning your constructions to take advantage of track characteristics in future races, as opposed to the immediate one, your engineers will have time to build and perfect your new components for maximum effectiveness. By looking at multiple races instead of one, you can also identify trends to help prioritize your part selection. For example, the engine might be key in one of the next 4 races, but by improving the gearbox, you could see a significant boost for 3, making it a stronger investment. By employing this strategy each time you enter the machine shop, you'll be certain to get the most influential upgrades out to the grid. This commitment to constructing specific parts is also exceptionally relevant due to how in-season upgrades build upon prior components. Each season begins with your engineers only being able to construct the most basic of parts, and as they complete jobs, they will have the opportunity to tweak performance from a list of tiered capability upgrades. There are up to 5 tiers of upgrades, and until your headquarters has added some specialized buildings, you will be limited to just the first 2 of average and good. Each iteration of a part unlocks a slot for an additional component, provided that you have built an item with at least one component of the highest available tier. Early on, without access to great components, you'll be limited to at most 3 slots of potential. This isn't necessarily a negative. For example, the cost to produce multiple engines in order to move up the tech tree can be quite prohibitive, so by focusing your efforts on a single type of part at a time, you will get access to upper tier components quicker for a massive advantage down the line. This is additional evidence for why scouting races to target specific parts is so powerful, where potential performance from higher tiered parts will blow your competition away if you can get them completed in time. Over the long haul, it's generally better to invest heavily in a few parts per season to reach those huge jumps provided by great, epic, and legendary components, and then change to new parts next season. It'll take longer for your car to have great parts across the board with this strategy, but in the short term, it means the parts you do work on will be more likely to be the best on the grid. Speaking of short versus long term, a key consideration when crafting new parts is whether you will opt for parts that have a high initial performance value versus a low starting value and higher potential. When your team is young and you have very few staff available, it is better to prioritize the initial build. You will struggle to have the manpower to improve both the performance and reliability an appreciable amount before you build replacement parts, run out of money, or the season ends. This is one of the reasons why the first headquarters upgrade I build is the level 2 factory, for 10 extra staff. Once you are beyond the starting phase, however, the sheer power offered by the parts that bias towards post-build improvements makes them the vastly superior option for eking out the most performance per currency invested. The game also tends to push you in this direction naturally, as initial part performance values tend to be lower than the top end of those that need honing. When it comes to part improvement, I prefer to run reliability-heavy prioritization, at least for parts I intend to use long-term. If you are following my production advice, you'll find yourself making a few parts just to move up the tech tree early in the season. You'll probably want to slap these things into the car, but I wouldn't be spending valuable staff time improving them much when the next iteration is already in production. You might get a single race out of that part, and you likely have better fish to fry. Still, due to cost, once again, this is more likely a factor early in your career. You might only make one copy of the top tier part, so keep that in mind, and consider investing staff time into your second best craft while the premier unit is still underway. You can always go back and craft another copy if you end up having time or money, if for no other reason than the seasonal transition. But that's a topic for another video. By following these tips, you should find yourself rising in the team rankings and chasing podiums very soon. Now, where did I put that socket wrench?